separate the cultures that use them as distinctly as they separate days, weeks, and months. The Western world's Gregorian calendar is based on the Earth's orbit around the Sun. It is composed of approximately 365 days in a regular year and 366 days in each leap year, every fourth year. With the solar calendar, the position of the Sun in conjunction with the seasons is always the same. March 21st is always the beginning of the northern spring. If you live in the United States, this is probably the calendar that is attached to your refrigerator. Another system, the Muslim calendar, is based on the orbit of the moon around the Earth. It is made up of 12 months of 29 or 30 days each. The Muslim lunar year, or the passing of 12 new moons, comes to approximately 354 days, which makes the Muslim year about 11 days shorter than the solar or Gregorian year. Because of this difference between the lunar and solar years, any given month in the Muslim calendar may fall during any of the solar seasons. As a result, Muslim holidays don't necessarily occur during the same season. The Kabbalistic calendar is based on the lunar year of 12 months with 29 or 30 days each, with each month corresponding to one of the 12 signs of the zodiac. But because all cosmic holidays and festivals, such as Rosh Hashanah and Passover, occur on days mandated by the Bible according to the lunar month within a particular season of the solar year, the lunar year must be reconciled with the solar year to prevent holidays from wandering through the seasons as in the Muslim calendar. To accomplish this goal, 7 times in every 19 years, the Kabbalistic calendar has a leap year with an additional 13th month, Adar II, a second month of Pisces. This maintains an approximate correspondence between the Kabbalistic lunar calendar and the Gregorian solar calendar. At the same time, a person's birth sign may be different on the Kabbalistic calendar than it is on the Gregorian calendar. If you would like to know your lunar birth date and discover if your lunar astrological sign differs from your conventional sign, please visit astrology.kabbalah.com. Aramaic signs in the heavens. According to Kabbalah, the 22 Aramaic letters are the building blocks of the entire universe, with each letter revealing an aspect of creation. The Aramaic letters are the genetic alphabet of the entire universe. This is not just a metaphor. Although it is beyond the scope of this book, Kabbalah teaches that the letters of the Aramaic alphabet are the actual stuff of which the universe is made. Each letter has a very specific and powerful spiritual energy. 12 letters are the actual DNA code for the 12 signs of the zodiac. He is the DNA code that created Aries. Vav is the DNA code that created Taurus. Zayin is the DNA code that created Gemini. Het is the DNA code that created Cancer. Tet is the DNA code that created Leo. Yud is the DNA code that created Virgo. Lamed is the DNA code that created Libra. Nun is the DNA code that created Scorpio. Samach is the DNA code that created Sagittarius. Ain is the DNA code that created Capricorn. Tzadi is the DNA code that created Aquarius. Kuf is the DNA code that created Pisces. The remaining 7 letters are the DNA forces that created the Sun, the Moon, and the first 5 planets. Chaf created the Sun. Taf created the Moon. Resh created Mercury. Pe created Venus. Dalet created Mars. Gimel created Jupiter. Bet created Saturn. From this, we see that there are 2 Aramaic letters associated with every month, one letter for the heavenly body that rules the month, and another letter for the corresponding sign of the zodiac. These 2 letters enable us to connect to the inner spiritual energy of each month. The letters are the keys or the passwords that give us access to a particular month's source of spiritual energy. Using the Aramaic letters helps us reunite the upper world, the spiritual world, with the physical world below. Section 4. Cracking the Code of the Soul. The Torah speaks in detail about the 12 tribes of Israel and goes to great lengths to define the positions of the 12 tribes and their encampments in the desert. 3 tribes on the east side, 3 tribes on the south, and so on. According to Kabbalah, these passages metaphorically refer to the 12 constellations and their positions in the heaven. And these 12 signs give us insights into our spiritual genetic makeup. This section discusses each sign and constellation in the night sky and its corresponding lunar month. We provide a description of the month's sign's spiritual DNA and the characteristics and energies associated with it. And we suggest ways to express the strengths and control the weaknesses inherent in them. These descriptions don't pretend to be exhaustive or complete. They are merely introductions to a much larger body of knowledge, which we hope will encourage you to dig deeper. If you look carefully at the characteristics of any of the signs, you'll notice that each characteristic is a sort of double-edged sword. For example, single-mindedness by itself can be a very positive feature, expressing itself as consistency, stability, or persistence in the face of hardship. But a single-mindedness can quickly become childish stubbornness. In the same way, an intolerance of opposition at the service of a good cause is a positive quality. But when selfishly applied, it soon becomes narrow-mindedness and fanaticism. It is not the sword itself, but how you choose to wield the sword that counts. Kabbalah recognizes that the influence of your birth month sign can take you in many directions, and it is up to you to choose the path. The goal of Kabbalah is to help lift the level of your soul, to transform your desire to receive to a desire to receive for the sake of sharing, to become more like the light that made you. If the following descriptions seem to sound negative to you, remember that obstacles provide us with the opportunity to choose differently this time around. It's only when we face these challenges that we can overcome our fears and move forward toward the light. Listen to all the month signs, not just your birth month. Each month is pertinent because we all have to find our way through the entire year. Each month suggests its own possibilities and opportunities for improving our lives. To determine the sign which represents your tikkun, point of correction, please refer to the attached tikkun reference table. The month of Nisan, Aries. Rebels without a cause. Nisan is the first month of the lunar year. It always coincides with the northern spring, around late March on the Gregorian calendar. Ruled by the planet Mars and named after the Roman god of war, it is a month filled with opportunities in the form of confrontations, battles, and potential antagonism. Because of this, Kabbalah tells us that the force of miracles is present in the universe during the month of Nisan. The Aramaic letters connecting us to the positive aspects of the month are He, which created the sign of Aries and represents the desire to receive, and Dalet, which created Mars and means poor. The combination of these two letters is interpreted to mean that during the month of Nisan, we should strive to diminish our desire to receive for the self alone. By contemplating these two Aramaic letters, we can tap into the energy necessary to attain this goal. The strengths and weaknesses of those born under the influence of Aries are linked with the ideas of seeds, infancy, or immaturity. A unique potential for growth coupled with a tendency towards impulsiveness and stubbornness, a pioneering spirit, boundless enthusiasm, courage, and a love of freedom combined with a total disregard for the consequences of one's actions. Like very young children, Aries tend to think of themselves as the center of the universe. And when they want something, they want it now. According to the Book of Formation, Sefer Yetzirah, each sign of the zodiac corresponds to a different part of the body. Aries is associated with the head. Like the ram that represents this sign, Aries rushes into things head first. If Aries is suddenly taken with an idea at 4 o'clock in the morning, they take action immediately. If someone should question their decisions, they become indignant. When Aries believes in something, they dismiss all objections. They cannot tolerate opposition. Under the influence of Mars, the planet of war, Aries are courageous and even daring. Unafraid of confrontation, they have a tendency to seek it out. Again, like the ram, Aries have a need to break down all barriers that stand in their way. They hate confinement or limitation of any kind. Danger has no meaning to them. They are quick and direct, but can be burdened by inflexibility and a lack of diplomacy. As a fire sign, their tempers tend to flare easily. If this sounds a lot like some teenagers you know, it isn't by accident. In many ways, Aries are rebels without a cause. If you look carefully at the characteristics of Aries, their double-edged sword is, in fact, exactly what was described in the previous chapter. Single-mindedness, expressing itself on the one hand as consistency, stability, or persistence in the face of hardship, and on the other hand as childlike stubbornness. So for Aries in particular, this means their tikkun is all about putting themselves at the service of a cause that goes beyond desire to receive for the self alone. It means transforming the love of freedom for its own sake to the love of a higher freedom that liberates them from the grip of selfish impulses. True freedom is not about a petulant, I can do anything I want. It's about mastering the ego. Impetuous action does not necessarily make an Aries free. On the contrary, it may enslave them to momentary impulse and empty whim. Aries need to put themselves at the service of a cause that goes beyond the desire to receive for the self alone. It means transforming love of freedom for its own sake into love of a higher freedom that liberates from the grip of selfish impulses. In fact, because Aries' desire to receive is so strong, they have the greatest potential for transforming their desire to receive into a desire to receive for the sake of sharing. The seed, the potential for transformation, is within them in abundance. In other words, by working to correct the self-centered influences of the month sign, Aries can become positive, proactive channels for the light and increase their ability to receive for the benefit of others. Along this redemptive path, and for the same selfless reasons, they can learn to listen carefully before passing judgment and reflect before taking action. In this way, they can reverse the negative reactive influences of the sign. This is the battle that Aries were made to fight. In this way, they become rebels with a cause. The word Nisan contains the Aramaic word nes, which means miracle. According to Webster, a miracle is an accomplishment or occurrence so outstanding or unusual as to seem beyond human capability or endeavor. Let's look at what this means for taking advantage of the positive energy that the month has to offer. The parting of the Red Sea was a miracle. David slaying Goliath was a miracle. Both seemed impossible, beyond human capability. But Kabbalah tells us that miracles happen every second because the light gives us an opportunity to change our destiny at every point in time. David was not fighting for himself, but for his people. He was placing himself at the service of an unselfish interest. This was the hard part. This was the miracle. He had already overcome the self-centered aspect of his personality. He had beaten the spiritual giant inside himself before the physical battle ever began. After this, bringing down Goliath was easy. Specifically, the month of Nisan allows us to connect to a miraculous energy that helps us overcome and diminish our desire to receive for the self alone. If your tikkun correction is in Aries, a tikkun in Aries tells you that you formerly had the behavior of a Libra, South Node. That is, you were often in the role of arbitrator, but were unable to settle conflicts because you refused to make decisions. Taking sides was difficult for you, since it implied possibly hurting someone. Because of this, rather than make a clear choice, you tried to unite what was incompatible, and you suffered the consequences of your indecision. As a Libran, you learned to compromise in order to avoid confrontation. You were overly dependent on the opinion of others, and this often caused you to act aggressively soon after your initial act of submission. Classic passive-aggressive behavior. A tikkun in Aries points you toward a correction where you must, above all else, uncover your identity, your unique needs, and your individual desires. You must seek independence and reinforce your self-confidence. This will help you discover your own spiritual nature and enable you to become more proactive in all areas of your life. Along this path of correction, you can stop avoiding confrontations and face each situation as it unfolds, without needing the approval of others. As you pass each test, you will gain awareness and confidence, come to know your own personality, and strengthen yourself. Combining Libra's altruism with Aries' ability to fight the good fight will bring about an overall elevation of your soul, allowing you to become the cause of the fulfillment you will soon receive. And this is what Kabbalah is all about. This month's influence on all of us. Confrontation. Aries is ruled by the war planet Mars. War can signify conflict among nations or hostility between two individuals. The spiritual influences arising in this month offer you the emotional strength to triumph over personal conflict and effect reconciliation. Nisan is an opportune time to build bridges and make peace with people with whom you're in conflict. The month of Iyar, Taurus. Bull in the bubble. Iyar is the second month of the lunar year and usually occurs in April or May on the Gregorian calendar. Ruled by the planet Venus, the Roman goddess of love and beauty, Iyar is nicknamed the month of light. The Aramaic letters connecting us to Iyar's positive aspects are Vav, which created the sign of Taurus, and Pe, which created the planet Venus. Taken together, these letters tell us that during the month of Iyar, the force of judgment is present in the universe. How are light and judgment related? How can we best take advantage of the possibilities this month offers? As a first step toward understanding the strengths and weaknesses of those born under the influence of Taurus, imagine a bull grazing contentedly in his own little meadow in a sun-drenched valley surrounded by hills. As far as he's concerned, his beautiful little meadow goes on forever. He can't see any fences from where he stands, and he just assumes that there aren't any fences anywhere. Life seems okay where he is, and he imagines it's okay everywhere. Besides, why go looking for trouble? Don't make waves. That's his motto. Live and let live. Things always work out in the end. So he minds his own business and keeps on grazing, satisfied with the cards he has been dealt. He's loyal, consistent, patient, tolerant, law-abiding, friendly, dependable, non-judgmental, and heck, he's pretty good-looking to boot. What more could he ask of himself? Good question. What more could he ask of himself? For most of us, the world is such a patchwork of good and bad, success and failure, darkness and light, beauty and ugliness. And when we see personalities like the bulls, we are tempted to leave them alone in their comfortable, Pollyannish bliss. This is precisely what most Taurians would prefer. They don't want to be changed. They don't want to be bothered. They don't even want to move. And it's easy to see why. The light is very warm on their backs. The world Taurians live in is bathed in light. Venus, Noga in Aramaic, rules Taurus. Noga means light. For Taurians, light is everywhere. A beautiful, dazzling, but sometimes blinding light. Because of this, Taurians tend to be eternal optimists, focusing on the positive and disregarding the negative. Nothing seems to upset them. They refuse to attribute bad intentions to anyone. Confronted with a nasty situation, it is not unusual for Taurians to respond with indifference. The situation will right itself. The light will take care of it. For this reason, Taurians often seem to lack ambition, initiative, and imagination. But it's not that they don't possess these attributes. They just don't see any reason to use them. Because of the abundance of light in their lives, Taurians can get complacent, self-satisfied, or smug. They're comfortable exactly where they are. Taurians often look imposing and are usually burly with a wide neck. The organs that correspond to Taurus are the throat and the tonsils, making them prone to sore throats, tonsillitis, or other illnesses specific to this area of the body. Taurians' physical heaviness is generally reflected in their personalities as well. They are docile, placid, and quite stubborn. Their reactions are always measured. They do not panic easily, and they rarely lose their temper. Even their joy is expressed in a restrained manner. Taurians love comfort. Their houses, spouses, and possessions are all precious to them. Acquiring and keeping these things is one of the ways they express their power. To keep it all intact, they may excuse or ignore any snub, insult, or unpleasantness. Some Taurians will fiddle while Rome burns, and overlook even the most incontrovertible evidence of impending disaster. They place themselves in a protective bubble of comfort and light, untouched and unmoved by the negative aspects of the world. In Kabbalistic terms, Taurians may use the light to deliberately stay in the dark. They are like children hiding under a security blanket where they feel safe, warm, and cozy. When this happens, Taurus's tranquil and unfettered life can be more accurately described as stagnant and cut off from the world. Life in the bubble is safe and comfortable, but it's unconscious in every sense of the word, asleep, unaware, on autopilot. Fortunately, there is another aspect to this comfortable light of Venus. Taurians, in particular, can use this aspect to remain conscious, in touch with the world, vigorous and full of life. That aspect is judgment. Judgment is the key. Remember, each astrological configuration, each month of the year, each sign of the zodiac blocks out most of the light, but allows a safe portion of it to get through to us here in the physical world. The characteristics of the portion of the light that we receive are different for every month sign. What characteristics does the light of Venus allow through? Venus is the only one of the inner planets that rotates in a clockwise direction. According to Kabbalah, any visible expression in the physical world is the result of a spiritual energy in the hidden worlds above us. So, the unusual movement of Venus results from a different sort of spiritual energy than all the other planets. Specifically, Venus moves from left to right because it moves from a spiritual energy of judgment toward a spiritual energy of mercy. Judgment is the light's request for revelation. In other words, Iyar, the month of light, is an opportunity to discover, through the use of our judgment, something that was previously unknown to us. For Taurians in particular, this means that there are choices, judgments, to be made. Although their perception that things always work out in the end is true, Taurians must learn that this merciful truth is not revealed fully in our physical world. Mankind must work hard to draw aside the many curtains of darkness and let the light shine through. To grow, the bull must leave his bubble and become more proactive, make judgments, and choose good from bad. The very same light that warms his back gives him the tools to confront the world, not hide from it, and to become more involved in the world, not less. Any of us can simply accept the blessings of the light and receive for the self alone. But along this path, we become complacent, protective, insular, reactive, self-satisfied, and ultimately filled with fear of any change. Or, alternatively, we can take advantage of the force of judgment present during this month sign, engage with the world, and discover what was previously unknown to us. We can transform our desire to receive for the self alone to a desire to receive for the sake of sharing. We can emerge from our bubble and see the world for what it is, make judgments, take action, and be sensitive to others. We can engage the world and all its problems, even if it means losing some of our own peace and tranquility. Taurians can risk change without fear. If your tikkun, correction, is in Taurus, this is one of the most difficult corrections to make. Those who have their tikkun in Taurus were Scorpios in a previous incarnation. Scorpio is the sign of self-destruction. In this lifetime, it is likely that the hurdle of a self-destructive nature remains to be overcome. At some point in this life or a past life, you are probably the victim of some deliberate injustice. You may have been robbed or driven out of your house. As a result, you carry feelings of anger and distrust. You may go to extraordinary lengths to hold on to your possessions when you sense, accurately or not, that someone is about to take them from you. You would rather destroy your own belongings than have them fall into others' hands. This applies to relationships as well as material possessions. Fear of repeating your past life may hamper your growth in this one. Despite this self-destructive tendency, your social behavior is friendly and spontaneous. Though still a rebel at heart, in this lifetime, you are constrained by your own anxiety. Your supernatural powers have not always been used in a positive way, but this time these gifts will help you reach elevated success of consciousness as long as they're used in the service of others and towards more constructive goals. The tikkun in Taurus also reveals an individual whose attitude towards sex is relatively unbalanced. You're passionate with a large sexual appetite that has caused many upheavals in your life, traces of which are still to be found in your present life. To avoid revisiting the situations you experienced as a Scorpio, you must overcome your residual fears, distrust, and anger. To achieve this goal, your tikkun directs you towards the positive aspects of Taurus's light, to appreciate the beauty and pleasures of this life, and in so doing, banish fear, distrust, and anger. This new approach to the world will let you express yourself without the anxiety induced by fear of losing your possessions. Taurus's light is a blessing that will open you to the wonders of this world. Letting in the light of Taurus pushes out the Scorpio darkness. If you succeed in breaking out of this Scorpio envelope, you can transform your need for immediate gratification into a true gift for generosity, which will lead you to come near to a total correction, divine love. This will enable you to transform your reactive belligerence into proactive serenity. By enjoying life, you can renew it and reclaim it. Your former torments will be appeased by your newfound peace. This month's influence on all of us. Fulfillment. Often, we relinquish control of our lives to doctors, lawyers, and other experts, expecting them to heal our physical, financial, and emotional wounds. However, true healing and fulfillment is our own responsibility. This spiritual truth is made more evident this month as the effulgent light radiating in ER inspires us to seek healing and fulfillment from within. The month of Sivan, Gemini. Searching for the there. Sivan is the third month of the lunar calendar, ruled by the planet Mercury, which is named after the Roman messenger of the gods. In Aramaic, Mercury is called Kochav, which is associated both with communication in the physical world and with integration of the physical and spiritual dimensions. The Aramaic letters that connect us to the spiritual energy of the month are Resh, which created the planet Mercury, and Zayin, which created the sign of Gemini, or the twins. Together, they tell us that Sivan is a month filled with potential for unification, particularly for the fusion of the physical and spiritual worlds. Quick is the word that comes up most often when thinking about Gemini. Quick to judge, quick to react, and quick to change. Quick as in clever and lively, but also quick as in momentary, superficial, and passing. In this little word, all the strengths and weaknesses of the month sign begin to emerge. Geminis are worthy representatives of Mercury, the fastest planet in the solar system, which makes its trip around the Sun in a mere 88 days. That's 104,000 miles per hour, almost twice as fast as the Earth. Like the planet that rules them, Geminis are speedballs. While most people require time to absorb information before taking action, Geminis seem to gather information and react to it simultaneously. If they see it, they get it, and they're on the move. They have a remarkable ability to grasp all sides of a question, synthesize viewpoints, and come to a decision almost at once. In this, they take advantage of the inherent duality of the sign. They see things with more than one set of eyes, sometimes even seeming to be in two places at once. It's not easy to have the last word with Geminis, because they have an answer for everything and possess extraordinary powers of persuasion. They hold their own opinions in very high regard, unless, of course, they happen to change their minds. Geminis can contradict themselves in a fraction of a second, not because they were seduced by an interesting argument, but because a new perspective is sufficiently attractive for them to want to take credit for it. Though not materialistic in the ordinary sense of the word, they are what might be called intellectually materialistic. Ideas are Gemini's coins, and they like to collect, count, rearrange, and spend them. They also could be called intellectual opportunists. If an idea works, they use it. If not, they toss it aside. Geminis are extraordinary communicators, quickly getting to the heart of even the most complex issues. Yet their own hearts present them with their greatest challenges. Because they move so quickly, Geminis may have difficulty staying still long enough for anything to really touch them. They are not models of perseverance. They may start a new job or new relationship with great enthusiasm, only to leave it after a short period of time. By not persevering, Geminis deprive themselves of any meaningful enjoyment. They may waste energy concealing their ignorance rather than applying it to master a subject. They may use their mental agility to escape emotional discomfort. They may skim the surface of an idea or relationship and miss its real significance. The Book of Formation reveals that the organs of the body that relate to Geminis are the lungs and the nervous system. When a Gemini becomes disconnected from the big picture by being too quick to judge, they weaken their link with the upper world, and this can make them prone to bouts of pneumonia and bronchitis. So Geminis are curious, creative, friendly, multi-talented, intelligent, and open. But they can also be flighty, fickle, impatient, restless, anxious, snappish, sarcastic, gossipy, and cynical. Are they simply fast-talking, charmingly persuasive, and quick-witted entertainers? Or is there something more to them, perhaps even much more? In Kabbalistic astrology, the strengths and weaknesses of a month sign are cut from the same cloth. We refer to this idea as a double-edged sword that could cut in two very distinct and opposite ways. At their worst, Geminis are like quicksilver, hard to catch, hard to pin down. If you've ever broken a thermometer, you know what we're talking about. Like quicksilver, Geminis tend to fluctuate wildly depending on the temperature around them, molding themselves to any situation without a form or identity of their own. Geminis try to find themselves by adapting, like a chameleon, to whatever colors surround them, hoping to blend in. But their real identity can't be found outside themselves. Satisfaction comes only from a deeper approach to ideas, to relationships, to themselves, to life. Fortunately, they are not without the tools to accomplish this. The opportunity is there for the taking. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini and the month of Sivan, is the planet nearest to the Sun, our source of light and energy. In Kabbalistic astrology, physical proximity indicates a spiritual resemblance. As the closest planet to the Sun, Mercury has the greatest spiritual similarity to that star. As you might expect, The sun represents a spiritual dimension above the physical world that we inhabit, a world connected more directly to the light that made us. Mercury shares this potential connection with the light. And if the planet shares it, so does the month sign. How can we take advantage of this affinity? Geminis can be very positive channels for the light if they use their gifts for communication in a sharing way. They have the ability to absorb, analyze, and transmit vast amounts of information and to communicate at many levels. But they must learn to linger a little longer over things if they want to get to the truth. To get there, they must understand that our own minds are not the source of our gifts. The light is the source. Our abilities and gifts are the blessings of the light. To maximize these blessings, Geminis must use them in a sharing way. They must go beyond a transitory intellectual self-stimulation. They must allow ideas and people to touch them and resist the urge to flee at the slightest twinge of emotional or intellectual discomfort. To connect with the world, they must penetrate beneath appearances. In this way, they will become true messengers of the light, creating links between ideas, between themselves and others, and ultimately, between this world and the upper world. If your tikkun, correction, is in Gemini. If you have a tikkun in Gemini, you formerly had the characteristics of a Sagittarius. This means that you behaved like a disorganized and spoiled child, living from hand to mouth, guided mainly by selfish desires. As a Sagittarius, you cared little for the people around you or what they thought. Married, you behaved as though you were single. The satisfaction of your own immediate needs dominated your whole life. Your thirst for knowledge and study led you to discover new horizons, but in the end, you remained a prisoner of your own desires. You lived an active life and did whatever you wanted to, but you could not commit yourself to any cause that was not directly concerned with your own immediate interests. Serving others and taking their needs into consideration seemed to restrict you. Hungry for freedom, ignoring social constraints, you eagerly sought justice, but for yourself alone. You neither cooperated with your fellow human beings nor gave them much credit. But sharing does not restrain your freedom. It enhances it. By opening yourself up to the needs of others in this life, you will overcome the leftover self-absorption that has hindered your spiritual transformation. By communicating openly, you can experience deeper fulfillment than you were able to find in the limited immediate pleasures that you settled for in your previous life, and receive the benefit that the light wants to share with all of us. To do this, you must learn to conduct yourself with humility and become more respectful towards those around you. Following this path will lead to a transformation of your abilities. Your curiosity will give you access to the surrounding world, but this time through the sharing of knowledge. By doing this, you will find new and more profound meaning in your working life and in your most intimate relationships. You will understand that a true and lasting freedom is forged from your connections to others and from an exchange of ideas that lead to a true metamorphosis. This month's influence on all of us. Relationships. For the rest of us, the potential of the month is clear. In life, we always want the most in the least amount of time. But the month of Sivan gives us the unique opportunity to go beyond the surface of the physical world and reveal the deeper spiritual meaning hidden within. For all of us, this is a month to focus on developing relationships with others and with the spiritual elements of ourselves. This is a time to form lasting unions, such as marriages, and is particularly suited to thoughtful reflection on ways to integrate the twins of the physical and spiritual worlds that live in all of us. The month of Tammuz, Cancer, ever-changing moon. Tammuz is the only month sign ruled by the moon, which in Kabbalah represents the feminine principle in the universe. The moon is also associated with Malchut, the physical world of manifestation and finality, doubt and limitation. The symbol of the sign is the crab. The Aramaic letters that connect us to the spiritual energy of the month are Tav, which created the moon, and Chet, which created the sign of Cancer. Tav is the last letter of the Aramaic alphabet and generally indicates endings, limitations, and borders. Chet is a very interesting letter because it's made by combining the Zayin of Gemini with the Vav of Taurus. Taken together, the letters tell us that we can overcome the negative influences of this month by combining the positive aspects of the two previous months. The Zohar teaches us that the three most negative months of the year are Tammuz, Cancer, Av, Leo, and Tevet, Capricorn. In Kabbalistic astrology, the term negative refers to judgment. During these months, we find that judgment is more direct. There is less mercy in the universe, less time between cause and effect, and less time between actions and their consequences. Cancer, or Sartan in Aramaic, is one of the only two signs that receive the full influence of the heavenly bodies ruling them. The remaining 10 signs are governed by 5 planets. Each sign shares the energy of its ruling planet with one other sign. For example, Venus influences both Taurus and Libra. Mercury influences both Gemini and Virgo. Cancer, however, is the only sign ruled by the moon, and because of this, the moon's energy is purely and completely manifested in Cancer. The moon's influence is magnified even further because Cancer is a water sign, and we all know how the pull of gravity is responsible for the ocean's tides. To understand the sign of Cancer, then, we begin by considering the moon, the symbol of variability and our planet's closest neighbor. Each and every night, the moon shows us a different face. With such a changeable ruling planet, Cancer's feelings of instability, uncertainty, and insecurity should come as no surprise. Nor should we be surprised at Cancer's attempts to regain security and stability by seeking reassurance in material comforts. Cancers are like the children of unpredictable and inconsistent parents. Such children compensate for their lack of security by becoming cautious, apprehensive, and acquisitive. Like their symbol, the crab, Cancers may create a protective shell of material things to shield them from what seems to be a capricious and uncertain world. Cancers often have round faces. The weak point of their body is their fragile stomach. They have difficult digestive systems and may be susceptible to ulcers. Cancers also have a tendency to suffer emotionally. They are prone to depression and severe mood swings, from joy to sadness to anger, and back again within seconds. On the positive side, this hypersensitivity allows them to understand quickly what others need or want. Cancers are keen observers of every movement or gesture, tirelessly looking for hints of change or trouble. They are extremely intuitive. But they are also extremely vulnerable. Because of this, they are constantly torn between their understanding of others' needs and their own need to protect themselves. Therefore, they may retreat into a shell, hiding behind a mask of seeming indifference. fear of hurt may immobilize them and prevent them from taking any action that could benefit someone else or themselves. Kabbalah associates the moon with Malchut, the physical world we see, hear, taste, smell, and touch. But in the physical world, we are limited by physical laws. We are limited by time. We are limited by our own bodies. Death is present in the physical world. Since there is no apparent way around these endings and limitations, we develop strategies for working within the finite system. Cancers, however, being under the influence of the moon, often feel that they cannot deal with the limitations that the physical world presents. Unlike Taurians, Cancers feel that they have no comforting light to escape into. For Cancers, the finite and apparently predetermined aspects of the physical world are a constant worrisome companion. They find themselves looking for the negativity that lurks everywhere, and it's no surprise that they usually find it. For Cancers, things are always about to come to an end. They may become reluctant to take risks. They may fear being misjudged and constantly seek reassurance and recognition. Taken to extremes, this anxiety can paralyze them. The future terrifies them. The past, on the other hand, is reassuring, and they recall it with great delight. They may even seek refuge in the past, stubbornly refusing to abandon its cocoon-like security. But remember, limitations, finality, endings, restrictions, doubt, and death are all illusions. Kabbalah tells us that the physical world is the seeable, hearable, smellable, touchable, and tasteable form of the hidden spiritual worlds. Malchut, the physical world, represents the physical dimension where there are endings, doubt, and death. If Cancers are full of anguish and fear, it is only to the extent that they invest their energy in the illusion of Malchut. Kabbalah tells us that our five senses perceive no more than 5% of reality. When we base our understanding and judgments solely on this 5%, it should come as no surprise that we are filled with hesitation and doubt. By excluding 95% of reality from our awareness, we miss the underlying spiritual truth of all creation. What are the positive aspects of Cancer? Here's what the Aramaic letters tell us. Chet is constructed of Vav and Zayin. Vav is a force of healing that connects us to the upper worlds. It represents sharing, unity, love, and balance. Zayin is a sword with the power to elevate reality to a higher and purer level. The month of Tammuz gives us the opportunity to regain our balance, unify our lives, heal ourselves, and overcome the apparent limitations of the physical world through the use of sharing and love. By doing so, we are able to see beyond the physical world to the upper worlds. For Cancers in particular, this means taking a more long-term view. You must emerge from your armor of material possessions and your masks of indifference and expose yourself to risk. To do this, you must recognize that the light of the moon may be uncertain and changeable, but the light we are made of is everlasting. You must release your talents for empathy and intuitive understanding into the world. Share it with others, not for the sake of recognition, but for its own sake. Nothing will help you more to overcome your inclination toward depression and anxiety than sharing with others and putting into practice your enormous potential for generosity. By doing this, you will begin to look beyond Malchut and forge a genuine connection to the spiritual world. Remember, the only riches truly capable of satisfying us are not material. Love, health, security, and even power are humankind's deepest aspirations, and these are all metaphysical concepts, not material objects. If your tikkun, correction, is in Cancer, the person with a tikkun in Cancer carries an enormous amount of pride left over from a previous incarnation as a Capricorn. As a Capricorn, you were totally obsessed with professional victory, honor, and respectability. Bolstering your own reputation was the main motivation of your life. You undertook impossible tasks, if only to gain the admiration of others. You appointed yourself judge and jury, and, as a consequence, condemned the mistakes committed by others. Though you saw yourself as a guardian of the moral order, you neglected morality's most important attribute, mercy. As a result, you have not forged many friendships and have often been considered a shameless opportunist. This drive to achieve overwhelmed you with excessive responsibilities that prevented you from thinking of others. Consumed by social missions, you were, oddly enough, oblivious to other people. You lived cut off from the real pleasures of life, home, family, friendship, and lived a secluded, selfish existence in your own secret universe. From this previous incarnation, you have the seriousness and discipline to accomplish whatever goals you set for yourself in this life. But the tikkun in Cancer suggests that you relinquish the notion that professional victories, social importance, and your own reputation are the keys to your happiness. Kabbalistic wisdom tells us that these are all illusions. Your correction in Cancer points you toward a new goal. It suggests that real happiness, durable, satisfying happiness, can be found in the creation of a truly warm and loving home. Along this path, you will discover a world heretofore unknown to you is filled with the wonder, simplicity, and spontaneity of childhood. You will learn flexibility and generosity in relationships and parenthood. The most difficult renunciation of your past life will lie in your abandonment of the well-established Capricorn ideas of success and failure. The key to your real success will be found in the loving eyes of your family and in your dedication and devotion to that love. It is here that you will find the ultimate satisfaction. This month's influence on all of us. Healing. The physical and spiritual disease of cancer is born in Tammuz, hence the name Cancer. Cancer can occur in business, relationships, and the physical body. The Zohar, however, explains that before a disease is created, the antidote and cure originate first. This month is our antidote and proactive healing process. We should direct our consciousness toward healing throughout this period. Strive more to ensure that all your actions and deeds embody care and tolerance for others. Maintain your connection to the light to ensure health and well-being in all areas of your life. The month of Av, Leo. Breaking the pride of lions. Av is the 5th month on the lunar calendar, and it is the only month sign ruled by the sun, which in Kabbalah represents the masculine aspect in the universe. Av means father. Its symbol is the lion, one of the 4 holy entities, the other 3 being the bull, Taurus, the eagle, and mankind. The Zohar explains that energy descends from the upper worlds into our world through these 4 entities. The Aramaic letters that connect us to the spiritual energy of the month are Kaf, which created the sun, and Tet, which created the sign of Leo. Kaf represents the crown, royalty, balance, and completeness.